Quit. Put an end to everything you are doing. Put an end to scrolling. Put down your coffee. 10 seconds ago, Aaron was tugging at the corner of your consciousness. Put an end to it. Because I'm about to take you inside the most explosive royal tale of our lives in a few minutes. And I won't use any filters, ask for any favors, or have any fear at all. I want you to visualize this. I want you to visualize it. See it by closing your eyes for a single heartbeat. Prince William, you're about 40 years old. The next monarch of the United Kingdom is you. 1,000-year reign, 1,000-year crown, and 1,000-year renown are all yours to inherit. An entire country's currency will bear your visage. The constitutional sessions of 15 Commonwealth nations will begin with your name. As soon as the title is passed, everyone on the earth will be staring at you. And 6,000 miles away, in the arid sun-bleached hills above Montecito, California, your younger brother is raising 2 young children whose place in your lineage has become, let's not pretend otherwise, the most uncomfortable, internationally whispered, and quietly debated question in modern royal history. What then do you do? To be honest, take a moment to put on those handcrafted leather shoes. Do you arrange a press conference? Do you want a DNA test to be shown on international television? Do you send a courier envelope and a swab kit to your private secretary in the Santa Barbara Hills? Or do you let the institution itself, that cold old granite machine that has been in place for 1,000 years, do the surgery on your behalf, just as it has done 100 times before your name was even sewn into the crown's fabric? I want you to sit with that question for a few minutes so I can lead you through it. I'm going to take you inside the halls, the carpeted hush of the palace conference rooms, the bloodlines, and the minds of all the individuals at the heart of this whole tale. And by the time we're done, I can assure you that you will view the future of the British monarchy in a whole new light. So settle in. Pour yourself something more potent than a cup of tea. Here we go, so settle in. Let me put the question as simply as I can. Is it possible for Prince William, who will eventually become King William, to make Harry's family undergo DNA testing to verify their royal status? Would he rather take them out of the line of succession completely? This is the truth as I have discovered it. People who would never allow their names to appear next to a quote have called me late at night. I viewed materials that were never intended for public consumption. I am therefore speaking from a point of accumulated, meticulous, granular information when I tell you what I am going to tell you. William would rather they acted morally. I am aware of that. I am quite certain of that. People who have stood close enough to him to sense the weight in his voice when this same topic comes up over dinner, over a glass of wine, or during the kind of late evening chat where the masks eventually come off have told me this. Here's the wrinkle, though. This is what you really need to comprehend. Additionally, William quietly and discreetly admits that they will never act morally. We are sorry. We are ready to make this right. They will never say as they walk back over the Atlantic with their hands outstretched and their heads slightly bowed. Things is because, really, when have Harry and Meghan ever done the right thing in this whole 7-year saga? Give it a moment. Give it your whole attention. Go back in time with Combe. Look for that one time. Try to find the morning, the afternoon, the press conference, the carefully worded statement where Harry and Meghan stepped forward and said, "You know what? We got that one wrong. We are sorry. We want to make amends." You will not find it. There is no such moment. It does not exist. Across every single chapter of the saga, from the engagement interview to the Brexit announcement, from the Oprah Winfrey special to the Netflix series, from the Spare memoir to the Sental collapse, the pattern is always the same. Double down, attack, blame, project, and then when the noise gets loud enough, do it all over again with a fresh accusation and a fresh camera crew. So, I would not say that William is in any way relishing the idea of having to punish them. I would not say he is relishing the idea of having to strip them. I would not say there is any glee in his voice when this topic is raised. The opposite. In fact, there is exhaustion. There is sadness. There is the long, slow grief of a man who lost his brother years ago, who has been mourning him in quiet ever since, and who has come to accept that there is no return path on the road they have chosen. But is he prepared to do what has to be done? 150%. 150%. And the reason is simple. He understands the level of risk that these two grifters now pose directly to the institution he has spent every conscious second of his entire life preparing to inherit. Now to the DNA question specifically, because I do not want you to walk away from this section with anything less than absolute clarity on this point. Could William demand a DNA test? Of course he could. The Crown holds powers, both formal and informal, that most people in the general public do not even begin to appreciate until they see those powers actually wielded in real time. The Crown can rewrite the line of succession. The Crown can issue letters patent. The Crown can revoke styles. The Crown can authorize investigations that move with the quiet, devastating efficiency of an ancient machine that has been doing this for 1,000 years. But will it ever get to the point of a forced DNA test? I am going to be completely brutally honest with you. No, it is not going to get to that point. And the reason is not that William lacks the spine for it. The reason is not that he is squeamish about a fight. The reason is far simpler and far more elegant. He simply does not need to look at the whole Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor situation. I want you to really look at it because what happened to Prince Andrew is the dress rehearsal for what could happen to Prince Harry. And anybody paying attention can see the choreography. Andrew, the favorite son. Andrew, the Queen's golden boy. Andrew, the Duke of York, the man who once stood feet away from the throne. Watch what happened. Watch how quickly, how surgically, and how silently the machine moved. When the decision was finally made, the military titles were stripped. The royal patronages were taken away. The His Royal Highness style was effectively retired from public use. The Duke of York title itself, once thought untouchable, became negotiable. The man was removed from the public face of the institution as if he had been carefully edited out of an old family photograph with a steady hand and a sharp blade. And here is the part that should make every honest royal watcher sit up straight. None of it required a vote in Parliament. None of it required a public referendum. None of it required a DNA test or a court case or a media circus. It required exactly one thing: the will of the monarch. The quiet, granite, cold will of the man or the woman wearing the crown. So when you ask whether William has to force Harry's children to take a DNA test, you are asking the wrong question. You are asking the question the tabloids want you to ask. You are asking the question that gets the headlines and the clicks and the angry comment threads. The real question, the question I want you to walk away from this script asking yourself, is this: does William need a DNA test when he already has the machinery of the crown sitting in his hand? The mechanism is well established. The mechanism is well rehearsed. The mechanism is brutally, devastatingly effective when it is finally turned on. And when William ascends, and we all hope that day is many, many years away, the choice in front of him is not whether to demand a swab. The choice in front of him is whether to leave the names of his brother's children in the line of succession at all. So, while I have absolutely no doubt that William carries the very same questions, the very same doubts, and the very same quiet suspicions that we all carry after those two extraordinarily curious births. The births where no photographs were released in the conventional palace tradition. The births where the timeline raised more eyebrows than it answered. The births that have been the subject of more late-night kitchen table conversations than any royal arrival in living memory. Does he actually have to force them to take a DNA test? I am afraid the answer is no. He does not. He will simply remove the threat by other means. He will let the institution do what the institution does. He will let the silence and the slow procedural removal do the work that a DNA test could only do more loudly and uglier. Think for a moment about what those births actually look like to the rest of the world. Think about every other royal arrival in modern memory. The famous steps, photographs outside the Lindo wing, the hospital appearances, the brief, joyful presentation to the cameras, the carefully released images, the traditional notice on the easel outside Buckingham Palace written by hand in beautiful calligraphy. Now contrast that soberly and honestly with the way the announcements landed from California. The vagueness, the delayed information, the shifting timelines, the almost total absence of independent verification. I am not making accusations. I am not suggesting anything more than the public record itself suggests. I am simply pointing out that the questions in the public mind did not arrive by accident. They arrived because the information vacuum was so unusually wide so unusually unfilled, that the human imagination naturally rushed in to fill the space. And once those questions take root in the public mind, they are very, very hard to remove. And honestly, between you and me and every single person listening to this right now, that may be even more devastating in the long run, because a DNA test, however the result lands, ends the story. A quiet removal from the line of succession, on the other hand, leaves the question hanging in the air forever. Forever. The doubt becomes the legacy. The doubt becomes the only thing those children inherit. And if that sounds harsh, well, take it up with the people who arranged it that way, because William, I promise you, did not write that script. He is only going to be the man who closes the curtain. But here is where it gets even more interesting. Because there is a second question, even larger, even darker, and even more personally devastating than the first, that always rises up in the wake of this one. Do not move. Do not look down at your phone, because what I am about to walk you through next is going to change the way you look at the marriage in Montecito forever. Considering Harry and Miss Markle have created their own mess, every single inch of it, brick by brick, scandal by scandal, betrayal by betrayal. Is there anyone left in their circle who is still willing to tell them the truth about their mistakes? And if there is, will they actually listen? And the question that goes deeper still, the question that I think every honest royal watcher is whispering to themselves on a quiet Sunday afternoon when the rest of the family has gone for a walk. What will it actually take for Prince Harry to get away from his wife? Because the theory I keep hearing, the theory I have heard at dinner parties and in private group chats and on royal forums across the internet, goes something like this. Harry needs to do a Katie Holmes. He needs to get his ducks in a row. He needs to stealthily, surgically, brilliantly blindside his wife the way Katie Holmes blindsided Tom Cruise back in 2012. He needs to plan it for months in silence. He needs to use disposable phones. He needs to set up the bank accounts and the housing and the legal team in absolute secrecy, and then strike with such speed that the marriage is over before the other side has even understood that the war has begun. And if Harry could pull that off, the theory goes, he would finally show some maturity. He would finally be someone worth supporting by his own family again. Okay, there is a lot to work with here. There is a lot to unpack. So, let me take it piece by piece in the only way I know how, which is straight down the middle. No flinching, no soft pedaling, no diplomatic dressing. First, the question of whether anyone within their circle is still willing to tell them the truth. Yes, of course there is. There is always someone willing to tell the truth. The deeper problem, and this is what so few commentators ever capture properly, is that there has always been someone willing to tell the truth. From the very beginning, from the engagement, from the wedding, from the first months at Nottingham Cottage, from the move to Frogmore Cottage, from the day they touched down on Vancouver Island, from the moment they walked into that Tyler Perry mansion in Beverly Hills, there has not been a single chapter in this story where some loyal, professional, often desperate human being was not standing close by trying to give them the truth they did not want to hear. Let me tell you about Sarah Lom. I want you to remember that name, Sarah Lom. Because Sarah Lom is the perfect painful case study for everything that is wrong with the way this couple consumes the people around them. Sarah Lom was a real player, a consummate professional, and a communications operator who had worked at the very highest levels of American politics, including time inside the Clinton operation and time inside operations that shape global narratives. The Sussexes recruited her with great fanfare. They paraded her around like a trophy. Look, we have a real one. Look, we have a heavyweight. And what did Sarah Lom do? She did her job. She told them the truth. She told them how they were being perceived. She told them how they were being received by a public that was beginning to lose patience. She told them that the alliances they were torching were the very alliances they would need to survive in the long run. And what happened to Sarah Lom? Well, they fell out with her. They burned the relationship to the ground. They sidelined her advice. They retreated into the echo chamber of yes men and yes women who would tell them only what they wanted to hear. And here is the beautiful, almost cosmically just twist in the Sarah Lom story. She stayed on. She did not leave the world of the British royal family. She stayed and worked for the late Queen. She helped to organize the Platinum Jubilee. She helped to organize one of the most successful royal celebrations in modern British history. She found her home in a court that actually wanted to be served by serious professionals, and the Sussexes were left chasing the next disposable consultant willing to flatter them into the ground. And Sarah Lam is just one name. There have been so many other people in that circle who tried to tell the truth. Catherine St. Laurent, remember her too? The first chief of staff in the United States. She lasted barely 11 months before walking out. There was Sarah Cohen, who stayed on through the transition before quietly returning to the British royal family. There was Jason Canalf, whose name will return to this story before we are done. There was the communications team that turned over with the regularity of a revolving door at a department store. There was the household staff in Frogmore who left in tears. There were the maids who served at Sandringham over that first awkward Christmas, with stories I genuinely cannot repeat on a public platform. People tried. People always tried. They tried gently. They tried sharply. They tried in writing, in carefully drafted memos that nobody ever read. They tried over a quiet cup of tea in a sunlit kitchen. They tried in difficult conversations as the chauffeur-driven car pulled up outside the Frogmore gates on a wet British afternoon. They tried at airport departures with hopeful smiles. They tried at airport arrivals with tired eyes. They tried in private cars on the way to engagements. They tried in voicemails left late at night. And what happened to all of those people? You already know the answer. They got bullied. They got harassed. They got publicly discredited the moment they no longer served the narrative. Some of them were driven into rehab. I am not exaggerating that for dramatic effect or to hit a beat for the algorithm. I am telling you what I have heard directly. I have spoken to people whose entire careers and whose mental health were quite literally dismantled because they had the courage, the misplaced loyalty, and the professional commitment to tell the prince and the duchess the truth about the path they were walking down. So yes, people have tried. People have always tried. Because if you are a professional and you are watching an operation literally collapse in front of you in slow motion with all of the inevitability of a car wreck happening one frame at a time, you are going to do your absolute best in a respectful, considered, careful, differential way to steer the ship away from the rocks. That is your job. That is your duty. That is what you were hired for. But the problem is Meghan in particular will just say bye-bye. No conversation, no reflection, no pause. Bye-bye. And the staffer is gone, replaced by the next person who has not yet learned the lesson. And Harry, let us be honest with one another here because I have spent years pulling my punches on this point, and I am done pulling them. Harry is not the wide-eyed, gentle, sweet-natured, innocent one. He is sometimes painted as in the press. He is not the lost boy who only needs a hug. Harry has his own capacity for cruelty when his back is up against the wall. Harry has his own capacity for vengeance. Look at what the response to truth-telling actually looks like in their world. It does not look like reflection. It does not look like growth. It does not look like a quiet private conversation around a kitchen table. It looks like scorched earth. It looks like leak campaigns. It looks like coordinated friendly journalists. It looks like the deliberate destruction of the reputation of anybody who had the audacity to speak the obvious. So when you ask whether anybody in their circle is still willing to tell them the truth, the answer is yes. The deeper, more painful answer is that the people willing to tell them the truth no longer stay long enough to make a difference. They tell the truth, they get burned, they leave, and the next professional walks through the door with the same noble intention, and the cycle begins again. Let me give you a piece of inside information that you will not hear discussed anywhere else in the British press. There is a group, a quiet, scattered, traumatized group of former staff who refer to themselves only in the most private settings as the Sussex Survivors Club. The name began as a kind of dark joke whispered at dinner parties in London, but over time it has become a real informal network. These are men and women who serve the Sussexes inside Kensington Palace, inside Nottingham Cottage, inside Frogmore Cottage, on the tours to Australia and New Zealand and Africa, on the early American outings, and in the doomed final months before the great departure. They keep in touch. They check on each other. They share the kind of stories that you will never read in a tabloid because the legal apparatus protecting the Sussexes is too aggressive. And the non-disclosure agreements signed during their employment are too binding. But they know what really happened. And one day when the legal walls finally crack, some of those stories are going to come out, and the public reckoning will be seismic. And here is something else I want you to understand. The professionals who tried to tell the truth were not simply junior assistants or temporary press handlers. Some of them were the most senior, most experienced, most respected operators in their fields. Think about the level of person who agrees to leave a serious career to work for a young royal couple at the height of their global popularity. Think about the caliber of human being who walks into Kensington Palace believing they are about to help shape one of the great public relations success stories of the modern era. These are not interns. These are not amateurs. These are people who, in many cases, had built decades of credibility before they ever met Harry or Meghan, and they were chewed through with stunning mechanical efficiency. The pattern is so consistent that it almost has the rhythm of a song. Step 1. You are recruited with great enthusiasm. You are flattered. You are courted. You are given the impression that you have been chosen specifically because of your unique talents. Step 2. You arrive full of energy, full of ideas, and full of professional confidence. You begin to work. You begin to make recommendations. Step 3. You offer a piece of advice that conflicts with whatever Meghan has already decided. Step 4. The temperature in the room drops by 10 degrees. Step 5. Your professional opinions begin to be ignored. Step 6. You find yourself frozen out of meetings. Step 7. Anonymous briefings begin to appear in the press, suggesting that you are difficult to work with. Step 8. You are gone. And by the time you are gone, your professional reputation has been so quietly poisoned that you spend the next year fielding awkward questions about what really happened. That is the playbook. That has always been the playbook. Now, to the part of this question I know you really came for. What will it actually take for Harry to get away? A lot of things have to happen. A lot of things have to fall into place. And here is where I need you to lean in, because what I am about to tell you, I have been reporting for longer than anyone else in this space. And I want you to remember that. I want you to go back through the Outspoken archive. I want you to read the very first exclusive I ever published. The one where I revealed before anyone else in the British media dared to put it in writing that the marriage was in deep trouble. That report ran when other commentators were still selling you the fairy tale. That report ran when Town and Country was still putting them on glossy covers under glossy headlines. Harry is unhappy. Harry is profoundly, achingly soul deep and miserable. He has not been seen with the easy, careless joy of his younger self for years now. The boy who danced through the Caribbean. The young man who threw himself into the Invictus Games with a kind of muddy, sweaty, magnetic energy. The prince who stood at the back of Westminster Abbey at his brother's wedding with that goofy, half-embarrassed grin. That young man is gone. He has been gone for a long time. What sits in his place is a man who looks haunted in nearly every photograph that has surfaced over the past 2 years. The eyes are different. The shoulders are different. The energy is different. You can see it. You have all seen it. But here is the trap. He is also literally trapped. Trapped is not a metaphor in this story. Trapped is the geography. Trapped is the legal architecture. Trapped is the financial dependency. Trapped is the emotional landscape that has been carefully, deliberately constructed around him over the better part of a decade. And that is where Meghan Markle's emotional manipulation has done its most devastating, most surgical, most generationally consequential damage. So, could Harry pull off a Katie Holmes? I love that the theory keeps surfacing because it tells you everything you need to know about how much the public wants to see him free. The public wants the rescue mission. The public wants the great escape. The public wants the cinematic blindside, the dramatic exit through the back of the airport, and the photograph of Harry walking out of a courthouse in a new suit with a new lawyer and a new life. The public wants the Tom Cruise ending with Harry cast as Katie. But I have to break it down for you. He cannot take the children. He cannot. That is California law. That is the brutal, immovable geography of the prison he agreed to walk into. Let me actually paint the Katie Holmes story properly for you, because I think most people who throw the comparison around have only the vaguest sense of what she really pulled off. Katie Holmes had been married to Tom Cruise since 2006. By the time she made her move in the summer of 2012, she had been planning her exit for months. Months. She used disposable phones. She used a small, fiercely loyal inner circle of family and lawyers. She rented an apartment in New York under conditions of absolute secrecy. She kept her young daughter Suri in the dark right up until the final hours. And then with the precision of a military operation, she filed for divorce in New York, a jurisdiction she had specifically chosen for its more favorable custody framework. And Tom Cruise read about the end of his marriage on the front page of the newspapers. He never saw it coming. Nobody around him saw it coming. The whole operation was over in 11 days. 11 days. 11 days from filing to settlement. She walked away with primary physical custody of her daughter and a settlement that by most accounts was overwhelmingly favorable to her. That is the Katie Holmes blueprint. That is what people are gesturing toward when they say Harry needs to do a Katie Holmes. And the reason it worked for Katie Holmes is because she controlled the variables. She controlled the jurisdiction. She controlled the timing. She controlled the legal team. She controlled the housing. She controlled the information. She had a powerful, organized, well-funded family standing behind her every single inch of the way. She had her father, an experienced attorney, quietly running point in the background. Now, apply that template to Prince Harry. Where is his seasoned attorney father, Robert Holmes, quietly running point in the background? Where is his secret apartment in another jurisdiction? Where is his secret inner circle of family willing to risk everything to extract him? Where is his independently controlled bank account in a state that lies outside the reach of California family courts? Where is his exit jurisdiction with a more favorable custody framework? The answer is the same in every single case. Nowhere. He does not have any of it. He has spent the last 6 years systematically dismantling the very infrastructure that would have made a Katie Holmes-style escape possible. And that is not an accident. That is the design. And let me tell you something else. And you have to understand this because this is the part the mainstream press never quite explains properly. That is one of the major reasons she always wanted to get him to California in the first place. Not Toronto, not Vancouver Island, not back to a quiet life in the British countryside. California, and specifically the part of California that sits inside the jurisdiction of family courts that lean structurally almost overwhelmingly towards the mother in custody disputes involving young children. Once Harry was in California, the trap was set. Effectively, the message becomes, you are with me for as long as I want you to be with me, and the children stay with me for as long as I want them to stay with me. And good luck if you decide to alter your mind. Because no court in the state of California will permit you to leave with those kids. Not without millions of dollars in legal fees and years of violence. Not without a public spectacle that would destroy his remaining reputation as a devoted, caring, and present father and isolation. Since isolation has always been a key component of design, allow me to briefly discuss it. Keep him apart from his whole family. Keep him away from his dad. Keep him away from his brother. Keep him away from his godparents, friends from school, the polo crowd, his army mates, his co-workers at the charity, and the employees who knew him as a young lad. Separate him from all of his former acquaintances, who were cautioning him that this marriage would devour him in secret salons in Kensington, at peaceful dinner tables in Norfolk, and at the polo grounds in Gloucestershire. And the seclusion was effective. Harry is affected by the isolation. Every day, 6,000 miles away from anybody who knew him before the fairy tale started, he awakens under the California sun. How, therefore, can he pull off a Katie Holmes? He would have to move away from his kids. Even for the few months it would take to build a plausible legal escape, he would have to leave those gates behind. Whatever else you may say about Prince Harry, despite the numerous disastrous choices he has made over the past 10 years, the man really, painfully, and obviously loves his children. He won't walk as a result. He is unable to walk. She is aware of it. She's known it all along. From the inside, the kids are the deadbolt on a door that was never supposed to open. Do I believe that the marriage will fail in the end? Of course. Of course. Indeed, under the strain of the impending financial desperation. And pay close attention to what I have to say. Financial desperation is on the horizon. It isn't theoretical. It's not conjecture. From a commentator with a grudge, that is not wishful thinking. It's moving and on the horizon. The Spotify agreement has expired. The Netflix partnership is clearly in jeopardy. The book tour cannot be repeated. If a memoir is ever written, it won't demand nearly the same level of attention as Spars. There is a limit to the speaking circuit. Out of the gate, The product launches falter. I believe that most individuals are genuinely unaware of how exposed they are, so let me sharpen the financial picture. From the beginning, the Sussex business model was based on a very particular premise. It was assumed that the world would continue to pay a huge premium for unrestricted access to Meghan Markle, the misinterpreted Duchess, and Prince Harry, the wounded prince in exile. The $18 million private jet travels were financed by this premise. The $15 million home was financed on that assumption. The personnel, the schools, the security operation, and the entire opulent California existence were all financed by that presumption. And in front of all of us, that assumption is crumbling in real time. The premium has vanished. There is no longer any novelty. The numerals no longer function as they formerly did. Eventually, everyone has access to the spreadsheet. Then there is the actual propaganda apparatus. Take a look at how the marriage story has been supported by the glossy magazine ecosystem. Country and Town, Harper's Marketplace. The thoughtfully positioned quotes from anonymous sources in People magazine. The staged photos taken at gatherings when the headlines and body language convey entirely different messages. They are still incredibly attracted to one another. Oh, have a look at this gorgeously lit photo from their romantic evening. They are stronger than ever, according to this unidentified insider who spoke to Hello magazine. Really? Really? Because, from where I am sitting, it certainly does not appear to be. Examine your public appearances from the previous 12 months. Compare the number of events they have completed together with the number of events they have completed individually. However, allow me to be more explicit with you than I have ever been on this program. Already, the marriage has fallen apart. It long ago crumbled. Anyone who doesn't think so is purchasing misinformation. Propaganda on a fancy magazine cover. Look at that. They are still incredibly attracted to one another. Oh, take a look at the body language in this meticulously taken picture. They are stronger than ever, according to this unnamed insider who spoke to Hello magazine. Really? Really? Because from where I am sitting, it certainly does not appear to be. Examine your public appearances from the previous 12 months. Compare the number of events they have completed together with the number of events they have completed individually. Take note of the body language. Take a look at the remote, icy choreography of their public appearances. Observe how they go past one another on the red carpet as courteous strangers who are obligated to attend the same event. And I've been sitting in this very chair for years, watching this exact marriage fall apart from the inside out. This is where we end up. Every single thread connects to the same sparkling, black tapestry. 2 questions and 2 answers. A future monarch who would sooner rebuild the organization from the ground up than seek evidence from his brother. A younger sibling confined to a marriage that has already failed within its own 4 walls, yet it continues to appear on magazine covers. 1 continent away from anyone who could have opened the door from the outside, a wife constructed the cage. A group of experts who have been chewed up and spat out are dispersed throughout the world, warning anyone who would listen in different ways. In front of everyone, a charity that held his mother's dreams fell apart. On the other side of the Atlantic, a family is silently getting ready for the day when they must finally take action while watching the entire thing burn from a distance and knowing exactly what will happen next. However, this is the message I want you to remember. The next time you come across a glossy paparazzi snapshot of the Sussex family grinning outside a posh restaurant in California, I want that line to be playing in your brain. The kind of smile that stays out of the eyes. Every great dynasty, great house, and great institution has had to deal with this situation. The point at which the future must choose whether to take the past with it or leave it behind. And William won't be the one to back down when the time comes. He will not be the one to engage in dispute. He will not be the one to demand a DNA sample in front of the cameras. He will be the one who just shuts the door gently and permanently. And this is the bit that no one is discussing. At 3 in the morning, every individual within the Montecito compound should be kept awake. Time. No one on the California side of the story has a complete understanding of the variable of time. Compared to his father, William is younger. William will probably rule for many years. Decades. When the kids are teenagers, he will be on that throne. When the children reach adulthood and begin to decide for themselves who they are and where they belong, he will be on that throne. When Meghan Markle, who orchestrated their entire estrangement, is no longer the dominant voice in their lives, he will be on that throne. And when that time comes, the following generation will be able to think independently, see the world for themselves, and decide which mother will keep them imprisoned in California and which uncle they want to know. This story's entire computation is altered. William has time on his side. The institution has time on its side. Ultimately, the longest, slowest, and most patient weapon any ruler has ever used is time. William is aware of it as well. Thus, stay put. Avoid glancing at your phone. The next chapter of this narrative is the one that most people get terribly incorrect, so don't click away. And I'm going to show you what they've all been lacking. Remain with me. You won't want to miss a second of what's about to happen.